Hello video and welcome back to another everyone. Wait, scratch it, reverse it. I think I'm a little rusty from taking a couple weeks off from making videos. Hello everyone and welcome back to another video on the channel. Today we're going to be talking about Wonka, directed by Paul King, the director of the brilliant Paddington and Paddington 2, and this follows a young Willy Wonka played by Timothée Chalamet as he's trying to introduce the world to his chocolate and a little bit of his backstory and a little bit of his wondrous magic and magician background and just his entire upbringing of becoming Wonka essentially. And I really enjoyed this movie. As somebody who grew up loving the Willy Wonka and the Chocolate Factory movie starring Gene Wilder, I watched that movie so many times as a kid that it's ingrained in my memory. That movie is like a part of my soul at this point. And yes, there was that other Johnny Depp one, but we don't talk about that one. But as somebody who is a fan of this series, who is a fan of that original movie, I wanted that magic back. I wanted to be back in a world where I can be imaginative, where I can have all this fun time with these weird, kooky, chocolatey adventures with Willy Wonka. And I think this movie delivers on most of the charm of the original Willy Wonka movie, but it has all of the charm of the Paddington movies. And of course, this will be a spoiler review for the Wonka movie, so if you have not seen Wonka, definitely go check it out. It is in theaters right now, but I guess I usually do spoiler reviews, so why not get into some spoilers? I don't think this is a movie where the spoilers are definitely like the defining thing about this film, but I want to talk about this movie without any, I guess, chains holding me back, so let's just get into Wonka. So what is Wonka about? Well, essentially it follows Willy Wonka arriving in town, like I said, ready to sell chocolates, but he runs into the chocolatiers, the chocolatier cartel, essentially, of all these people, ran by Slugworth, who is, of course, the rival of Willy Wonka's that we get to see in both of those other Willy Wonka, Charlie, and the Chocolate Factory movies. And so he quickly finds out that he's not welcome to sell his chocolate here. He also gets scammed into staying at this, apartment place that he's going to rent, but then he gets stuck, doing the laundry in the basement because he signed a contract and can't read. And so it's essentially both a jailbreak movie, a Willy Wonka trying to sell chocolate movie going against this cartel, and then also a heist movie all at the same time. And if that sounds familiar, it's honestly kind of similar to the Paddington movies, particularly Paddington 2, where it has a great jailbreak sequence and a very fun and entertaining way to tell a story that has a lot of heart at its core, because of course, Wonka is going to meet a bunch of, people along the way in his journey, one of which is this girl named Noodle. There's a bunch of other characters that have fallen for the scam that Olivia Colman has run in this hotel room, who essentially become the, I guess, confidants and the team around Willy Wonka that help him, pull off his heist, help him sell his chocolate on the street, despite the police being, bought out by the chocolatiers to try to stop them at all costs to sell chocolate. And they're all kind of, building off of each other as a team. And at its core, at its heart, is a relationship between Willy Wonka and Noodle that I absolutely loved. Noodle was a character that was essentially, you find out her backstory was she was a baby and she's related to Slugworth, and he essentially dumped this baby into this laundry chute that essentially put her in the position that she is in as an orphan, being stuck, working at this place that she doesn't want to work at, being trapped in this place, having so much debt to owe to Olivia Colman's character that she can't, have a life outside of that. She can't afford books. She wants to read. She has an imagination to go out and do greater things with her life, but she feels so trapped. And so Wonka wants to help her also get out of this rut, and along with all the other characters that are stuck in this rut of theirs, and he wants to be able to help them all. He makes a promise to help them all, and I think that is where the heart of this movie is, because you get to see that Wonka is a character that has so much empathy and wants to help others, that wants to bring joy to everybody else around him. And I know I said we're not going to talk about it, but the whole Charlie and the Chocolate Factory movie, directed by Tim Burton, starring Johnny Depp as that character, I think that is the thing that was missing from that movie. It had the weird and darker tones and the darker comedy that Gene Wilder's character had as Willy Wonka, but it had none of the warmth, none of the charm, and none of the empathy that this character has of, seeing these people, seeing these spoiled kids and giving them what they deserve, but also seeing this young, bright child in Charlie that has all these ambitions, that has all these dreams, that has all this kindness and all this warmth to this character, this empathy that he has towards this kid that he deserves to get everything that he gets in Willy Wonka and the Chocolate Factory. And so to have that empathy in the character of Willy Wonka, I think is absolutely necessary. That is the baseline of that character. And yes, you can get weird, you can get kooky, and you can have all those dark jokes of, these kids essentially being taken out one at a time in the chocolate factory in a very, darkly funny way at points in Willy Wonka and the Chocolate Factory, but you need to have that heart at the core of the movie. And if there's anything that, the Paddington director can bring to a movie is heart. And I also do want to get into the chocolatiers themselves as the main antagonists of this film. And I think it's interesting to see Slugworth actually, have a role in Willy Wonka's life. And this whole thing with the chocolate cartel, I think is a really funny idea. I think they each know exactly what type of movie they're in. And I think in this aspect, this movie feels a bit more geared towards younger audiences because this movie is extremely silly. It is really goofy. The humor in it at times can be extremely it's towards a younger audience, but I still had fun with it because these actors are really giving it their all, giving the hammiest and most cartoony performances of their careers, and I found it to be really fun. Honestly, in terms of the songs in this movie, which I will have some gripes about the music in this film, I do think that the dance number with the chocolatiers trying to convince Keegan-Michael Key's police chief to buy into all these chocolates in order to get rid of Wonka at any cost, maybe cause an accident that will kill him in some sort of way. I love that song. I had a lot of fun with that one. That one kind of got stuck in my head for a little bit. And also there's a song between Noodle and Wonka at the zoo when they're trying to get the milk from the giraffe that I think was such a beautiful song. Again, it had that charm and that imagination that Willy Wonka has, that connection that he has to this child that he wants to help so desperately to get out of the position that she is in. And so I think those two songs in general had either the heart or the comedy or just the fun nature that this movie is presenting, in terms of its tone, in terms of its story. And I think both of them worked really well. I think the music in general here, not a single one of the songs reached the point of the original Willy Wonka and the Chocolate Factory, where that movie had so much charm and it's so iconic at this point that it's impossible to write songs that, at least it's a daunting task to write songs that are going to instantly be iconic like that movie was, and it's an extremely tall task, and I don't blame this movie for not reaching those level of heights, but I found this movie to not be as smooth or natural when it came to the songs. I found that the movie worked at its best away from the music numbers, but more focused in on the characters, and the heist element at the end I thought was also extremely fun. The way that they take down the chocolatiers, essentially, one of the characters that is stuck in this laundromat, he worked for Slugworth at a point, and there's all these books, being an auditor, going through all the payments that they did throughout their entire business. He was looking after the fake books, and the company had their own written books that had the truth of everything going on, and if they can expose the truth of how they spent their money, how they bought out the cops, how they did all these things, they can take down these corporate overlords that are selling these chocolates at such a high price that the people that can't afford those chocolates can't enjoy the luxury of just having a nice little chocolate bar, which I thought was also another nice sweet little element of this movie as well. But I just enjoyed the tone and the style of this heist. I thought the teamwork and the characters around them and their chemistry all worked together, and by the ending of the film, once Wonka successfully frees all these people from under the thumb of Olivia Colman, and they stop the chocolatiers from having the police officer under their thumbs, and they can kind of free the city of this I guess torment that they got from the chocolatiers. It's kind of it's a cheesy idea in general. The story here is very simple, it's very lighthearted, it's nothing too intense or dark in any sort of way like Willy Wonka and the Chocolate Factory. It is very much a movie geared towards children, but it was so much fun. And again, I cannot stress enough how much fun I had during the heist of this film, with just how it played out and how these characters interacted with each other and how those things kind of panned out by the end. It was just a lot of fun. And then there is the Oompa-Loompas. And I think of all the explanations of the Oompa-Loompas, the Willy Wonka and the Chocolate Factory didn't care at all to explain the Oompa-Loompas, and I think Charlie and the Chocolate Factory went a little too far in explaining the Oompa-Loompas into, it got to a point where it was maybe a tiny bit problematic when it comes to today's standards, but I think this movie handled it well because it felt like it was ripped right out of a fantastical element with the magic and the tone of this world that they have set up. And I think Hugh Grant was really funny in this role. I thought he did a great job as his Oompa Loompa, and it very much felt like the Oompa Loompas were of another species. They were not human in any sort of way, and they were magical creatures that lived on this island that protected their cocoa beans. But then Willy Wonka came along and stole the cocoa beans from them, and Hugh Grant was sleeping on the job, and so he was put to blame, and he was told to go out into the world, banished from this island, and had to get all this chocolate 10 times the amount or 1,000 times the amount that was, stolen from the island, and he has to bring it back to the Oompa Loompa land. And he was essentially following around Willy Wonka, stealing his chocolate this entire time, and it gives a reason for these characters to interact with each other in a very fun and interesting way. And the fact that, by the end of it, he gave Hugh Grant all the chocolate that he needed and invited him to, like, oh, I need some taste testers in my factory. I need some people that appreciate the chocolate just as much as I do to be a part of this story, to be a part of my chocolate factory. And, of course he's going to loop in the Oompa Loompas in a very, I guess, heartfelt way, because that is a more natural way than just having a workforce kind of being enslaved in a sort of way like the Charlie and the Chocolate Factory movie. But again, we don't talk about that adaptation. That adaptation was a bit rough, but I did like the Oompa Loompa in this film as well. And so honestly, I don't really have a lot of negative things to say about this film, besides the fact that not all the songs are going to be as iconic as the original film, and this movie doesn't have that dark, sarcastic nature to Willy Wonka. This is more of a lighthearted movie. I think Timothée Chalamet plays a good Wonka. He doesn't have, like I said, that sarcasm or that dark humor or that kind of sinister nature or mystery to his character, because this is a deconstruction of his character, but the explanation of his mom making chocolates for him, and he wanted to be a magician, and when his mother passed away at his very young age, he decided that he wanted to combine the magic side of his personality to the chocolate making side of his mother. And once he gave his chocolate out to the world, maybe he can find out his mother's secret in making chocolate, and that secret was that it's not about the chocolate, it's about the friends you make along the way, essentially. And I thought that was a very heartwarming message, and a little kiss blowing through the air from his mom at the end of the film nearly brought a tear to my eye. It was just very heartfelt, very sweet, and this was just a very warm movie that I thought is great for families, especially during the holiday season. So those are going to be my thoughts on Wonka. I'm very curious to hear your thoughts in the comment section down below. I know a lot of people were not looking forward to this movie in a lot of ways. I think the conversation online has been really a Wonka movie starring Timothée Chalamet, but genuinely it is an extremely heartwarming film that I think you will have fun watching this movie. Honestly, I have a hard time thinking that somebody can walk into this movie and not, be tugged at the heartstrings, to not be moved by the story of this movie, or at least have fun with the adventure and the fun antics that Wonka goes through throughout this movie. So definitely comment down below your thoughts on this movie. I'm very curious to hear all of them in the comment section down below. And if you enjoyed this review, make sure you guys leave a like on the video and subscribe to the channel to see more reviews just like this one. I know I've been kind of missing the past few weeks. I got sick and I was dying for a second, but now I'm all good, and there's so many movies I want to review in the next couple weeks. I moved to LA, so there's a lot of limited releases, so I'm going to have reviews out for Poor Things, The Iron Claw, a bunch of other things, Ferrari as well I'm watching next week, and so there's definitely going to be a lot of stuff here on the channel for you to check out. So thanks everybody for watching, and I hope to see you all in my next one.